What's up, guys? So it's noname4505 here. More games going on. This is some RBY. This is actually from the RBY like circuit thing that was going on. So basically, it's open. I guess like um I don't know what to call it. I don't know if it's like annual or semi-annual circuit tournament for RBY, and the winner gets a $50 Amazon gift card. So that's the main reason why I decided to sign up. That tournament's actually the reason why my channel's active. It's like, ooh, RBY, there's like 10 bonds, so I can not really play that much and still probably do well. Probably not first, but I feel like I should at the. I feel like I have the potential at least to get to the round robin top 16. That's really what my goal is, but that's besides the point. But I was like, ooh, let's do that. And then it's like I'm on. I was actually on waiting for my opponent on the day we're supposed to play. But he didn't play, or he didn't show up. So I actually ended up being on Smog Tours for like 4.5 hours, and I got a bunch of SPL games. So that's the main reason why I'm a little bit more committed to trying to get some SPL games up. But all that's besides the point. So yeah, my opponent's Jacob, RBY OU. And this is a best of 3. All the RBYs are best of 3 because the player base decided that hacks happen, so we need a best of 3 to have a more accurate outcome. Because even with all the hacks over best of 3, the better player usually wins 9 out of 10 times. But over best of 1, some BS can happen, as we will see. So let's go ahead and get it started. So I'm gonna lead Zam. He's gonna lead Jinx, as it'll show up there in a second. I've said a few times I'm not a big fan of lead Zam, but Zam is still a very strong lead. The main reason why I'm not a big fan of it is that Starmie can do a lot of the same things that Zam does as a lead, but not exactly, obviously. And then Zam in the late game is very strong. But on this particular team, lead Zam was more beneficial for me, I found. He just happens to lead Jinx, though, so I was like, damn, I wish I had Starmie there. But it doesn't matter, so I just fire off the T-Wave. Rest Jinx is very popular, so getting damage with S-Toss really wasn't... It's not really as beneficial for me as firing off T-Wave. And I have Starmie in the back. And of course, turn 1, he gets a crit and a freeze with Jinx, so, that's cool. I go for Thunder right there. At this point, because my Alakazam is frozen, I've pretty much decided to sack Starmie to sleep. The main reason why I have Zam in the lead is actually because this team does struggle with Jinx a little bit. So by sacking Zam to sleep, Starmie can still be awake and effectively deal with Jinx, instead of it just weakening me down with Psychics and Blizzards and all that. But I have Thunder on there, so Amnesia Slowbro is a bit less of a pain. 70 accuracy sucks, especially in this gen, where most moves are 90% accuracy and above. Well, obviously not exactly 90 because of the 1 out of 256 thing, but that's besides the point. It misses Thunder. I don't even think 2-hit KOs, so that doesn't really matter. So I'm able to get my Lax in here now, as he double switches the Tauros to try and take advantage of my sleeping Starmie. This is actually a pretty good situation for me, except he crits me, and I only get off a little body slam. So I gotta switch to Aggie now, and then he crits that too. So that's really unfortunate, because now I have 2 Mons at half health. Of course, no leftovers in this gen. A sleeping Mon and a frozen Mon. So we're off to a fantastic start. Fantastic. So now I'm just going back to Lax just to sack it at this point. But he ends up going for Hyper Beam. I don't even remember why I switched to Snorlax. I think I predicted a Psychic switch, but even then, I feel like I should have just gone for... Oh no, I predicted a double back to Jinx. Yeah, that's what I predicted. I predicted him to go back to Jinx, and since my Starmie is asleep, my next best answer on this team is to go to Snorlax, because I don't want my Chansey getting frozen, and at least Snorlax can potentially do a bunch of damage to Jinx. But he ends up going for Hyper Beam. I don't even think my Iggy was in Hyper Beam range. It might have been though. So who knows? I don't remember what that damage is off the top of my head. I think it's like... It might have been, but He ends up going for Hyper Beam on my Lax. I feel like it's not, though, because Iggy has more defense than Slowbro. But Slowbro, or Snorlax, has a lot of HP. But regardless, I'm able to boom, even though I end up losing my Lax because of that. Trading Lax for Tauros, especially considering how low my Iggy is pretty nice. He still has his own Lax in the back, which is annoying. So he reveals Zapdos on me, as I think I had, I go to Tauros right there, figuring he's gonna go at the Jinx. I think, yeah, I figure he's gonna go at the Jinx. Wait, why is Boards of Canada popping up? Where's my Chrome? God damn. Alright, so, he goes to Zapdos. I gotta go to my Zapdos answer in this team, which is Jolteon. He just fires off a T-Wave. Jolteon being paralyzed at this point doesn't matter too much. I mean, it's annoying because he probably has a Zam or Starmie in the back, but it's the best situation for now. And his Tauros is gone, so the main threat is out of the way. I don't have a Chansey on this team, so that's a bit of an issue, but it's whatever. What I've come to discover about the new sort of way RBY works is that Chansey is a lot more mandatory on teams than it used to be. Just because of the body slam changes, and because of that, like stuff like Tauros and Lax, it's a lot more difficult for them to get around Chansey. It also means, though, that if you're the Chansey player, you just can't sit there and absorb a paralysis like you used to avoid being frozen or slept. The old mentality actually used to be like, paralyzed Chansey is actually not so bad because you can't get frozen and you can't get slept, but now that's not so good, because if you're paralyzed, then those normals have the opportunity to beat you. Of course, this all assumes that you're a fool, but that's besides the point. So I don't even know where I am right now, but I think I just sacked my Zam to Jinx, and then I just used Tauros to deal with it. Get a crit body slam. I think bodies, it kind of mattered because it would have forced me to go for Hyper Beam, but obviously the luck has been in his favor mostly, so I don't give a shit, so I just decided to sack Starmie right here because his Jinx is dead, so he can't. Well, actually, he still has Iggy, so that's not true. But considering that I think my Iggy is paralyzed. No, my Iggy's not paralyzed, but my Jolteon is paralyzed. So it's gonna be more difficult for him to put something to sleep with his Iggy. So I just decided to sack Starmie, and that's sort of the best situation because my Iggy is so low. I can't switch into Snorlax. But he doesn't have a sleeping Mon right now, so now I can go to Iggy and put something to sleep. And he pretty much has to decide between Zam or Chansey, whichever he has, or his own Iggy. Or he could put something like Zapdos to sleep. Honestly, I felt like Zapdos would have been the best option because you already see the Jolteon from me, so Zapdos probably isn't going to do that much this game. At the very least, it trades. And considering that my Iggy's at half and his Iggy's at full, his Iggy's going to come out on top of that situation. Or at the very least, we're going to trade Iggy's, and his full health Lax is going to win him the game. Plus whatever his last is in addition. So I definitely feel like Zapdos might have been the better sleeper there. But he just decides to sack the Iggy to sleep. This works out perfectly for me because I can just keep going for Psychics all day long. And if his Iggy booms on me, that's alright, I guess. It's obviously not ideal, but at this point the game is pretty much lost for me. I just need to get really lucky with these sleeps to try and get the Iggy down, and that way I can still have my Iggy to try and boom on Lax. And if I can boom on Lax, or I can boom on, if his last is Chansey, if I can boom on that, then that also will put me in a good spot. But basically, I need him to stay asleep with this Iggy. And then I need to win some ties and stuff. Or just get really lucky. So he's asleep there for a bunch, so I get lucky. I don't win the speed type, but he misses sleep powder. So I'm able to fire off another Psychic. And like I said, in order for me to get back in this game, I gotta get a bunch of luck. Because the luck he got early in the game with getting the crit freeze on Zam, the 2 crits on Snorlax and on Exeggutor put me in a really bad spot early on. But I'm getting a bit of luck to sort of get back in the game. So it's 3-3 now. I'm getting back into it. Goes out to Zapdos. Obviously, I got to go out to Jolteon. This should be a fairly easy switch for him out to Snorlax. Maybe not this turn though, because he's technically in the upper hand. Yeah, doubling the Snorlax right there really shouldn't have been a good situation. I don't know why I said that was easy, but I don't think he like that risk isn't worth the reward. And you'll see later on that any hope that I had of getting back in that game sort of goes away later on because I predict him to be aggressive when he doesn't necessarily need to be. So like I said, Eggy is the most important mon to have because I can put something to sleep, I can boom on something. So I predict the Lax to come back in because that's probably his best answer to deal with it. Or we see that his last is Chansey. If he went out to that too, then that's alright. I was assuming that his last was going to be Alakazam and not Chansey. Which is why I thought he was going to go out to Lax. But his last is Chansey, so it doesn't matter anyway because I outspeed. So Chansey goes to sleep. That's probably his best option. So once again, I just need Chansey to stay asleep for a bunch of turns. And maybe some special drops so I don't use up all my psychics. But at the end of the day, I just need this thing to stay asleep for a bunch. But he sort of realizes my game at this point that I'm just going to keep going for psychics, hoping that he stays asleep. So he goes out to Zapdos right here, keeping the Chansey as sleep fodder. And I believe I'm just going to go for another Psychic right here into the Zapdos. Either way, I still need Eggy. Chansey is asleep though, so I'm not too concerned about it. And hold on, I'm going to pause right here and sort of explain what went down and why I think, like why I made that play and why that play turned out to be incorrect. So his Chansey is asleep at this point. And my what this means is that my Exeggutor can click Explosion, kill one of his two mons that are still alive, being Zapdos or Snorlax. Snorlax, of course, being what the ideal boom target is, considering that it's definitely the bigger threat at the moment because Chansey is asleep, and if I can get rid of Snorlax, then Tauros and Jolteon should be able to win me the game. That's what's going on in my mind. And so Chansey is asleep right now, and he has Zapdos and Snorlax left. Obviously, my Jolteon is the primary switch in, and if he can get his Lax in on my Jolteon, he pretty much just wins the game because he fires off an attack, and then that's it right there. Like, he just fires off an attack. I have to switch out to Eggy because otherwise I lose to Zapdos if I don't switch out and keep my Jolteon's HP. And then he just goes for Body Slam, does a bunch of damage to me, and then he can just sort of pivot around between like Chansey and Zapdos. And then at that point, I don't really have anything to take an attack. At the same time, though, I'm actually in the upper hand right here, not him. So, but his Lax is key. So, if he loses his Lax, he absolutely loses this game, like I said earlier. So, if he doubles to Lax and I click Explosion right there, or yeah, because he has to, in theory, he has to double to Lax right here because he's starting to lose momentum and I'm starting to gain it back. So he has to double the Lax, at least in my mind. But he realizes that if I predict that and I go for Explosion, or if I even don't click Explosion and I go for Psychic, then he's in a much more difficult position. Because if I get damage on that Lax, then my Tauros has a chance to beat it because I'm not paralyzed. So those are sort of the mind games that are going on there, but he ends up predicting correctly because I didn't assess the situation properly. I felt like I was still down from early in the game, so that's why I needed to be aggressive to try and get rid of that Snorlax to win. But the reality of the situation was that once he loses Snorlax, then I win. So I was actually in the upper hand, and I should have definitely played that situation a lot more safer. Even though... well, the thing is, though, is that my Exeggutor can still take one Body Slam, and I don't feel like he goes for Hyper Beam against Jolteon in that situation. That's just my opinion, though. If he does that, though, this dude's an absolute baller, but I don't feel like he does it in that situation. If he does, though, then that just is what it is, and I just got played. But That's whatever. So I should have played it safe there. Once my Eggy can't take another body slam, then I feel like I have to start playing aggressive around the Lax. And then the mind games would have started to come in there. Do I boom and does he stay in? Or does he switch to Zapdos? And then do I double to Jolteon and then double back to Eggy? And those types of mind games go on. Or do I go to Jolteon, he's in Zapdos, and does he stay in? Like all those mind games are would be going on right there, but I just sort of end it by trying to play too aggressively too early. In theory, that's how the situation should have gone down, and the mind games still would have happened. But it should have happened later, right there. I don't think I'd be aggressive right there. So that was a very long-winded explanation, probably too long, but hopefully you understand why I made a mistake there. So I'm going to go ahead and speed it up because at this point I've already lost, because unless I get some super Tauros cheese, I can't win at this point. So I just go out to Jolteon to trade with Zapdos. He doesn't decide to save Zapdos for some reason. I feel like that was definitely a little bit of a misplay. I feel like he should have just sacked Chansey right there and then gotten the safe switch to Lax. And my Jolteon's paralyzed, so he outspeeds me. So I'm trying to get this freeze right here. Doesn't happen, and he just goes for self-destruct. And is able to KO me, and yeah, he's able to win game 1. So like I said, this is a best of 3 series. So it was a bit of a rough start for me. I pulled back towards the middle there, but like I spent like 4 minutes or something talking about that Eggy play, which I'm definitely shaking my head at, because I felt like I had a pretty solid chance to win that game. It still came down to mind games, but it was a pretty solid chance nonetheless. So I got myself back into it, so I'm feeling pretty confident going into game 2. But I am down, so I have to win game 2 and game 3. So game 2 should be coming shortly. So yeah, I hope you enjoy, guys, and stay tuned for game 2.